The Blue Pedalway runs almost from the centre of Wymondham into the city of Norwich. This is part one of the route, which runs from Wymondham to the Thickthorn junction of the A11 and A47. It actually has the potential to be quite a useful commuting route. More to the point, it connects a couple of schools. Wymondham High, which is where the cycle track begins, and Hethersett Academy, and it provides the route children will use to get to those schools. But how good is it for either of those two purposes? So to see how good the route is, we rode it with Alex and Erik. Alex is 12 and Erik is 8, but they are both quite experienced cyclists. So is the Blue Pedalway from Wymondham to Norwich safe enough to allow children to ride unsupervised? Well, it doesn't get off to a terribly good start. Notice the bus stop, you get people waiting for the bus, and it's just impossible to cycle past this at busy times. So we come to the first of many side road junctions, and this one's just chaotically marked out. The kids take the safer route by staying on the footpath. Quite how you're supposed to take this junction isn't at all clear from the way it's marked out. And of course, cars have the priority over cyclists, meaning cyclists have to give way to cars, and that happens at virtually every junction. This was recorded in April 2021, which was just at the end of the second COVID lockdown. It was the first weekend after the lockdown. That means traffic on the road was very, very low. Normally, this is a very busy section of road along here. But that shouldn't make too much difference because this is an off-road route. But of course, it wasn't only quiet on the road, it was also quiet on the pavement. And normally, this section of pavement is very busy with pedestrians, which makes cycling really, really difficult. And then we get another substandard side road junction. Cyclists are supposed to give way again. As a commuting route, this section really is pretty useless. For children cycling to school, well, chaotic is probably the way to describe it. At the risk of sounding like a stuck record, when we were recording this, the pedestrian traffic along here was very low. And we have houses with driveways. And quite often there are cars sitting on the cycle track waiting to join the traffic on the road. It barely counts as a cycle route, frankly. Just ahead is another hazard, a petrol station. You have the problem of cars driving across the cycleway to get into and out of the petrol station. This is more of a problem for cyclists coming the other way because the exit from the petrol station is hidden behind a hedge along with an entrance to a private driveway, and it's really difficult to see cars pulling out as you approach them. Again, really badly designed. This large hedge is actually concealing quite a few hidden driveways, and again cars emerge to join the road and block the cycle track. Once we pass the hedge, more houses, more driveways. But then we get this little bit of old road which we can follow, which takes us away from the houses, and this is quite decent for a short while. It's amazing how many parked cars there are down here. All of these houses have got quite large driveways, plenty of space to put cars, so why are people leaving them on the road? This is really the first decent section of cycleway we've come across on this route, and it's the first section that a serious commuter would consider using. Frankly, up to now, anybody who wants to get anywhere would have stayed on the road. But things go downhill pretty quickly, and this nice quiet section of road finishes. And the road layout that we get now was too confusing for the kids to follow, and they stayed on the pavement. And we get this bollard. Why is there a bollard here? What possible function does that have? It's just in the way. Coming the other way, the big arrow is clear enough, but why the giveaway lines? And it's back to a normal old shared use pavement with houses with driveways and terribly substandard junctions with side roads where cyclists are expected to stop for the almighty car. just unfit for a commuting route, this section. And once again, just to labour the point possibly, this is a very low traffic day. Normally there are a lot of vehicle movements here, including in and out of these side roads and the private houses' driveways. And coming up we have the Tuttle's Lane roundabout. This is the point where the A11 dumps its traffic into suburban Wymondham, so you do have to be very careful. It's a busy place with quite a lot of fast moving traffic, so yep, you got to be careful. At this point the cycle track was diverted away from the direct route. The kids didn't notice, and I confess I didn't either. Anyway, we get to the junction and we have to wait for interesting cars to go past. This crossing could be a lot worse, I have to say, but it's really not very friendly. You've got to watch what's coming. The traffic here comes very fast. The central reserve here is really quite small. It can barely hold more than a couple of cycles. Now if things get busy, this facility just isn't big enough. Once back on the cycle track and it's more of the same. You've still got houses on the left. 1930s ribbon development, I think. And of course, we soon come to a bus stop, which would be chaotic at busy times. And we sort of crashed through a pedestrian crossing queue, if there was one. Yeah. But interesting to note, on the other side of the road is the new houses and what looks like a purpose-built cycle track. But we notice the cycle track on the other side of the road gives way to side streets, so it's not properly designed. Another terrible side road crossing. Oh look, another bus stop. If we see on the other side of the road, the new housing development seems to have stopped, and with it, the new cycle track. So yes, okay, it's useful for the people living in the new houses, and I suppose it connects to this cycle track by way of that pedestrian crossing we just went past a little while back. It doesn't seem to be part of a coherent scheme. These things never are. But anyway, we're getting away from the built-up centre now, and things are opening up. Although we'll see in a minute, there is yet more suburbia being built. Just look at this side road crossing. What are they thinking? And another bus stop. And then another new side road entrance being built in a really substandard way. I mean, that's the thing, I can understand the path being fitted into roads that were already there, and then it's difficult to do it properly, but on a new build, there's no excuse. Now, in fact, there's plenty of room for them to have done that junction properly. Now, this is a two-way cycle track, so why the arrow? And again. And not all that long ago now, we would have been entering into the countryside. You can see by the type of houses by the side of the road. But the cycle track now does actually seem to get a little bit better. It's even wider in places. Dare I say, if you wanted to commute along this road, this might be the point where you join the cycle track. But then we come to a new development, which was being built when we recorded this video. Now, there is a cycle crossing there, just a little bit further up, but it's not open yet. And you can see it's actually got a raised table. And maybe they've done it right at this junction. For now, though, we have to cross at what will be a pedestrian route across into the central island. But then, just as things seem to be getting better, another bus stop, and another terrible side road crossing. But then, things change. And you get this unbelievably lovely section. Now, we're leaving the road slightly, and we're running in what was fields. It is still a shared use path, but what a difference. This is a nice cycle track. This is how things should be. Well, it should be segregated, but we'll live with it. We're finally out in the countryside, and then we come to the Kett's Oak. This is where Robert Kett assembled his men to march into Norwich at the beginning of the rebellion in 1549. So at the time of filming, that oak was over 470 years old. Yeah, so this is nice. This is the sort of cycle track that's really worth using. People will want to use infrastructure like this. It's just pleasant. There's good sight lines, you can get up a reasonable speed if you're in a hurry. You're away from the road, you can hear a bit of bird song. It's just stress-free, it's lovely. Yeah, okay, I'm waxing lyrical, but no, I like this stretch. But, of course, all good things come to an end, and we revert back to the side of the road shared use cycle path. But things are a lot better now, and in fact the route from here on is pretty much usable as a commuting route, although as you'll see there are still problems. We do have houses on the left and they've got driveways, but on the whole this section is pretty much uneventful, so we'll speed things up a bit. Oh look, another bus stop. Okay, we sped this up. We're running at about double speed here, which means we're doing apparently around about 16 miles an hour. That is not excessive for somebody who's commuting. In fact, given a good bike and given a fit person, you can probably commute close to 20 miles an hour. And this track really isn't up to that kind of speed at all, which really just isn't good enough. This is a long distance cycle track. People will be going fast along here. This track is good enough for your average cyclist, I suppose, but not your serious commuter. And another substandard junction, priority to cars of course. And in fact this is a really good example of what happens when you stop the cycle track like this. If we were riding on the road, we'd have just gone straight past this junction. But riding on the cycle track, we have to wait. And we have to wait. And keep waiting. Notice the track worn in the grass on the left, where people are following the desire line rather than the official route of the footpath cycle track. The desire line is the direction people actually want to go, and as usual it's a straight line between where you are and where you want to be. Desire line tracks like that are actually quite common, and it's what happens when you don't put the path where people actually want to go. Yet another bus stop. Then we're into another good section, so we can speed it up again, back to 200%. And so we approach Hethersett village, and this is where Hethersett Academy is located. Now at this point the cycle track used to follow the old road through the village, and the old route splits left here, but there's a new section of cycle track which stays on the main road and bypasses the village. So we would expect this to be built to the highest of high standards, and to be fair it's not bad, but of course we have to cross the side road. And guess what? Give way to cars. But at least it's reasonably well designed. That's a real pity. Things were going really well, and then we get this. That would have been a really nice bit of new cycle track, had it not had that stupid side junction in it. Anyway, we're past Hethersett village now, and we have to cross the side road again, and of course give way to cars. But again, not a badly designed junction this, at least we've got good sight lines. And once across that, we're onto the final stretch. Just to add a little bit of variety here, we have 2 points of conflict, a bus stop and a bus shelter, but not in the same place. And then, yes, another junction with a side road where we're expected to give way to cars. It really can't be emphasised enough how disruptive this is to cycling. You have to keep stopping just so cars can go past. Ride on the road and you've got no problems, you just sail straight through. Not a badly designed junction, good sight lines and all the rest of it, but if we want people to use cycle infrastructure, it has to work as a road for bicycles, and it has to be direct and it has to be quick, and cycling has to have the priority over side junctions. This is a nasty junction. The sight lines aren't good, there's a lot of traffic. We're crossing right at the mouth of the junction, and it's a junction designed for cars to take at reasonably high speed. It's just badly built, badly designed. No good words to say about this one at all. Random bus stop. Some kind of entrance to a business here, and it would be good if the cycle track was marked nice and clearly across that entrance. and now we're into a mass of roundabouts and road crossings. This is the Park and Ride and the Thickthorn services, so it's a very car-centric place. Although the road crossings aren't too bad, they are of course car priority, and there's a lot of vehicle movements here, so keep your wits about you. One thing you have to keep your wits about you for is badly positioned signs telling you that you're on a shared use cycle track. And once we've threaded our way through all this, we eventually head down towards the A11 and the end of part 1 of this trip.